O hidden life, vibrant in every atom, O hidden light, shining in every creature, O hidden love, embracing all in oneness, may each who feels himself as one with thee know he is also one with every other. Om Shanti. Shanti. Brothers and sisters, we welcome you all in the Shankar Lodge Delhi meeting today, this Saturday evening. We are privileged today that Dr. Rajiv Gupta, a national lecturer, will share his thoughts on the topic the astral plane and the astral body, part 1. We may mention here that Dr. Rajiv Gupta is a member of Shankar Lodge, Delhi. He is currently the secretary of the Shankar Lodge. He joined the Theosophical Society in 1989. He became a life member in the year 2005. He served on the posts of President of Delhi Federation and Shankar Lodge on multiple occasions. He has participated in and conducted the study camps in Delhi. Professionally, he is working as chest specialist in ESIC Hospital, New Delhi. Now, without taking any more time, I now request Dr. Rajiv Gupta to please give his talk. Dr. Rajiv Gupta,
Thank you, Mathuji.
please
Thank
go.
you very much. So, today we are going to talk about a very important subject. In fact, this subject is the astral plane and the astral body. My talk will be based upon the books of C.W. Leadbeater, The Astral Plane and The Astral Body by Pupil. So, these are the books. I will start with the presentation. Well, can we see the presentation?
राजीव
Yes,
आ रहा है
visible.
हाँ
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, I said the talk is based mainly on the work of C.W. Leadbeater, and it so happened that he was member of the London Lodge, and in 1894 he was the secretary of London Lodge, and the president was A.P. Sinnett. We know we have heard about A.P. Sinnett. So what happened at that time was that just a second, I will have to. Because I'm presenting, I'm unable to get the members inside. Now I will be able to do it. I have logged in from the mobile phone as well. So it so happened at that time that AP Senate asked C.W. Leadbeater to give a presentation on this topic, the astral plane. And at that time in London Lodge, the meetings used to be held 3 to 4 times in 1 year, and they were closed meetings. They were not meetings like today that we have open meetings that anyone can come. So AP Senate used to invite people of the elite class, the high class, the learned people, the intellectual people, as well as the members of Theosophical Society. At that time, the members of Theosophical Society were called the Fellows of Theosophical Society, FTS. And so on uh, November 21st, 1894, C.W. Leadbeater presented this talk, which later on he then wrote it down, elaborated it, and it was published as Transaction number 24 of the London Lodge. Now, in 1891, when Madame Blavatsky had left her body, she had passed on her house on 18 Avenue Road, Regent's Park in London, to Dr. Annie Besant. And Dr. Annie Besant in 1892 started a series of theosophical manuals to make theosophical studies easier and for students to be able to grasp the concepts of theosophy easily. Uh, the first manual was Seven Principles of Man. By 1884, 1885 rather, 1895, she had already published four manuals: Seven Principles of Man, Reincarnation, Death and After, and Karma. In 1895, she met for the first time C.W. Leadbeater in this life, and she invited C.W. Leadbeater to stay in her house along with C. Raj Das, who was being supported by C.W. Leadbeater, and C.W. Leadbeater had brought him, in fact, from Sri Lanka for his higher studies. So, in this way, they, from this point onwards, 1895, a close collaboration started between Dr. Annie Besant and brother C.W. Leadbeater. Now, this transaction, once Dr. Annie Besant saw this book, she said that it was a wonderful book, and why not to include this as a theosophical manual? So it was included as a manual after permission from C.W. Leadbeater, and it was published as a fifth manual, The Astral Plane. They both went on and they investigated the Devachanic plane, the lower mental plane, and since she was quite busy, so he wrote down in the same way as he had done with the astral plane, and that was also published as Theosophical Manual number 6, the Devachanic plane. In this way, there was a great collaboration between the two, and they went further on with other books as well. Now, why is this book, The Astral Plane, very important? It is very important because, as it is written, for the first time among occultists, a detailed investigation had been made as a whole from the matter side. Earlier books and earlier discourses given by the previous occultists and other uh, evolved beings were from the principle side, how a human being functions from the functional side. But C.W. Leadbeater, being a very scientific minded person, a person who had keen observation, ability to analyze, categorize, he then started this categorization of the astral plane, the various inhabitants of the astral plane, and the various sceneries of the astral plane, and he gave them in a very systematic manner. So much so that this book was taken up by his own master and kept it in the occult museum. So the importance of this book is that this book has been written in a manner which is different from the manner in which earlier books were written on the subject. The other important point is the authenticity. Now we are dealing with a subject which is known personally to very, very few people. So whether how do we know whether what is being written is correct or not in the first place? And how do we know what is being written and given to us is not having any errors also? So C.W. Leadbeater, being a very thorough person, he consulted two of his own colleagues who had similar qualifications or abilities to move around consciously in the astral plane as well as the physical plane at the same time, meaning The physical plane consciousness and the astral plane consciousness were united, they were one. There was no break in between. Not only that, he also showed the book to his seniors and got the confirmation that whatever had been written in this was correct. In a later edition, also he writes that over a period of several decades, he has found that the material that has been written in the astral plane is absolutely correct and that he does not need to change anything in it. So, this was the other edition in the later part of his life that he wrote about that. So, another thing that he says is that, as it is written here in the slide in the last, that this account of the astral plane, though it cannot be considered as quite complete, may yet be found reliable as far as it goes. He says that I am giving you certain things and they might not be complete because to discuss about a whole world, a whole loka, is not so easy that in one book we can capture the whole of it. Even our physical world that we see, the solid and the liquid part of the physical world that we see, and some amount of gaseous part that we see, we are unable to. How can we, in one book, capture the whole and give it to somebody who has never been to our physical planet Earth? So he says, but whatever I've given is accurate and reliable. That much I can say so. So we have a first hand account. This is very important to understand. Then he goes on and tells us that for a theosophical student, the teachings of the wisdom religion here, by wisdom religion it means theosophy, they can't be really grasped unless the theosophical student is clear about the seven planes of nature or the seven lokas. Our solar system has been made in such a way that it has seven layers or seven degrees of matter or seven states of matter. So we can see, we call them as planes of nature. In theosophy, we call them as planes of nature, or we can call them as lokas or worlds. So we have the most gross, meaning the particles here are very close together and big particles. The matter of this loka, the physical, the bhulok, this physical lok matter, physical plane matter is quite dense matter. Less dense to it is the astral matter. Similarly, again, less dense to the astral is the mental, then more, let's say, less dense to the mental is the buddhic, then nirvanic, or we call it as atmic also nowadays, then paranirvanic, and then mahaparvan. So these are the class. This is the classification or the names given earlier. Nowadays, buddhic is called intuitional or can be called intuitional, although many people they like to call it buddhic only. Nirvanic is also called as atmic or spiritual. Paranirvanic has been called as anupadak or monadic, and then Mahaparanirvanic as also called as Adi, the first, or the divine plane. So this is the way in which the solar system has been made. When the solar system was being created by a being that we call the solar logos in theosophy, he started with the seventh, the most subtle plane or loka, which was having the least dense matter. Once this plane was ready, then this next plane was formed, or the next loka was formed, then the third, then the fourth, then the fifth, then the sixth, then the seventh. Finally, after the seventh was formed, the whole solar system was ready in place for the evolution of all life to begin. Now, this physical world and as well as all of these worlds are also subdivided into seven states of matter. So not only are these seven main planes of nature are there, each plane is also subdivided into seven types of matter. On the physical plane, we have the solid, liquid, gas, and then we have the four what we call in theosophy as etheric uh, states of matter. In the astral as well, as we can see with this arrow, we have the first, which is the least dense, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. These are the seven subplanes. Now, just like we have in the physical solid separate from liquid, these are two states of matter, and then the third is the gas. In the same way, in the astral also, we have the seventh, which corresponds to the astral solid, then the sixth as the astral liquid. Like this, we have also here seven subplanes of matter. Now, with this basic foundation, we can go forward and try to understand how the astral plane and its various characteristics are. If there is any issue regarding till what I have said, one can ask any question if it is not clear about this thing. Now, as we have seen that the solar logos or the Ishvara of our system, solar system, he started creating matter right from the least dense to the most dense, from the seventh here to the first here. It doesn't matter whether we call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't matter. The least dense is this one, Mahaparanirvanic, and the most dense is the physical. So each physical particle will be having a corresponding cover or a particle which is corresponding to it, a counterpart to it, and that is the astral. So let's understand this again. Each matter is, all these matters are present at the same time here in the same space that we are occupying. They are not in different zones, and all are interpenetrating each other because they can interpenetrate each other. The subtler ones can easily fit in between the grosser ones. So we have the astral here as well as the physical here. Each physical matter, just like if I have a pen or a table, anything that I have of physical matter, it will have a counterpart in the astral world. Counterpart meaning a similar shaped object will also be present in the astral world. Most of our theosophical students know about it, so I will just go further than this, and let's try to understand this now again. So we see that if this E is written is the earth. This earth represents our earth as we know, the globe, but it is also having within and without it, that is interpenetrating this matter of earth, and also beyond this earth, astral loka or astral globe. Because astral particles are quite, they're less dense than the physical matter. They are spread wide apart, just like gas is spread wide apart. In the same way, these particles are spread wide apart, and for thousands and thousands of kilometers beyond the surface of the earth, the astral sphere is present. So if we see, this is the astral globe or around our physical earth. This astral globe is in fact so big that at the time that we called as perigee, perigee is the time when the moon and the earth, they come closest together. The moon in the 28-day cycle has an elliptical orbit, so it comes at one point nearest to the earth, and there is another point when it is the furthest away from the earth, and that is called apogee. At the perigee, because moon is also physical matter, it also has a globe around it of made up of astral matter. So these two globes of astral matter, the one around the moon and the one around the earth, they come so close together that they are in contact with each other at this point of perigee, when the earth and the moon globes, physical globes, are the nearest to each other. So this is the extent to which the astral matters are extending beyond the surface of our earth and beyond the surface of the moon. If we just see, that the diameter of the Earth is some 12,500 kilometers. The diameter of Moon is one fourth of it. The distance at perigee between the Earth and the Moon is about 3,63,000 kilometers. And the Earth's atmosphere, that means that what scientists have been able to gather, that the atmosphere finishes at around about 10,000 kilometers. This is how the physical atmosphere finishes around 10,000 kilometers. If we see the distance of almost 3.5 kilometers and divide it in a mathematical manner, because this is one fourth of this diameter, so we can say that this approximately the astral globe is around 3 lakh kilometers from the surface of the Earth, and the moon astral globe is around 65 to 70,000 kilometers from the moon's surface. This is the extent of the matter. This is important as we'll go further why we are talking so much about this thing. At any point, if somebody has a problem understanding what has been talked about, they can stop me and ask me any question. It has often been called the realm of illusion, the astral plane. Now, why astral plane is important? When we sleep, our body is left behind, the physical body, and we pass on to the astral plane or the astral world. We spend our time there, and then when we wake up in the physical body, we come back into the physical realm or a physical life. So we are spending some amount, maybe 6 to 7 hours every day in the astral plane. Then after death of the physical body, then again we spend several years. Let's say a cultured person can spend about 30 to 50 years on the astral plane. So to know about the astral plane is important. To know about the astral plane is important because we are actually moving in the astral plane throughout every day, as well as when we die, that is the next station for us. So in that sense also we should at least have some intellectual knowledge. There is also some uh, practical benefit also. As we'll go further, we'll see how what we can gain even though we are not conscious of the astral plane in our normal understanding or day-to-day life or our way of living. We are not conscious of it. Even then we can have some benefit from this knowledge. Now the astral plane has often been called the realm of illusion because of the unreliability of impressions brought from the untrained seer. If due to some reason somebody is able to uh, become conscious on the astral plane because of some drugs or out of body experiences, or one is able to remember certain events, and when he comes back to the physical body in the morning after sleep, then what happens is, now the trained seer like C.W. Leadbeater, he says that our books, they talk about astral plane as the realm of illusion. The reason being that the matter there is, he's given two reasons, that the matter there is so easily maneuverable, so easily changeable by the will of the person, that anyone, any person, any being, there are a lot of beings there of different categories, they can change very easily the matter and present themselves in a different way. Just like if in the physical world, I could, just by my thought, I could change or disguise myself as some other person. Supposing I were to change myself instantly into Mahatma Gandhi, the shape and figure of Mahatma Gandhi, then the persons, people who are in front of me, they will think that I am Mahatma Gandhi, unless they are trained enough to see that it has been done in this way, that I am in disguise. So the people who are untrained, they can be fooled very easily. Rather, he says they are fooled. So this is number one. Number two is that the way to see things on the astral plane, the vision in the astral plane is also slightly different the way we see in the physical plane. And again, the same thing, the untrained seer will not be able to see exactly clearly or comprehend clearly what he is seeing because of the way in which things should be seen if trained properly on the astral plane. We'll understand this later, but these are the reasons. So one should not try to force one's way into the astral plane, try to think that I will raise my kundalini or I will do certain crystal gazing or do certain other things that I should be able to, like Tratak and all, that should then I can perhaps see the subtler worlds. Maybe, but C.W. Leadbeater and others they have spoken that unless you are trained by a qualified person, one should not venture into this realm at all. Now, another thing that we need to note is that even though at night when we leave and we are in the astral plane, meaning the physical body is in fact, sleep is equal to that we leave the physical body. We meaning our astral body, which is connected with the physical body, gets detached from the physical body, and then we are, as we know ourselves to be, in the astral plane, in our astral bodies, because we also have a body, which is a counterpart of the physical body. We understand it like this. Later on, we'll understand how the astral body is also made. So it is like the physical body. We have astral body. In that astral body, we are there in the astral plane, and in that astral plane, we are not really awake to the plane. We are awake in that plane, but mainly engrossed in our own thoughts. Just like if we were to travel in a train or in a bus or in a car, and we were to be thinking about our own affairs, or supposing if we have a book in front of us or we have a mobile in front of us, and we are engrossed in that mobile or a book, it is equal to the same thing in astral plane, that the person in the astral plane is also most of the time in his sleep just engrossed in the day-to-day affairs which are going on in his mind and is not awake to the things which are present around him. So this is one thing that we need to know. That is why when we come back, we don't have much recollection of what we have seen, because we have actually seen nothing in any way. So he says that because there is a lot of beauty and a lot of things that can be seen and learned, because there are people there who can also teach and can help also, one should shake off this habit of thought. Just like as we're traveling in a bus and we are habituated to reading a book as soon as we enter the bus, or looking at a mobile as soon as we enter a bus, we should leave that habit. Try to think that we will not do this, and when we sleep. So if we were to give an autosuggestion to ourselves repeatedly that I will not, during my sleep, when I sleep, I will not think about my own affairs, but try to see around me what is happening. So maybe one will be able to see, but this thing is important, as we will see later why this will help in the person to be active on the astral plane, and will help to accelerate his evolution and to do some meaningful work on the astral plane. Now, with this brief introduction, we'll go on to the inhabitants. Just like when we enter into a new country or a new place, we find that we meet a lot of people who are the residents of that place, of that country. And some of them we can recognize, some of them we cannot recognize. A beautiful categorization has been done by C.W. Leadbeater, and he has divided the inhabitants of the astral plane into three groups or three classes. The first is the humans, second are the non humans, and the third are the artificial. Now we'll do one by one all of these. In the humans, there are two subcategories. Those those humans who are still having a physical body, meaning they're still retaining or living in the physical body. And the second subcategory is those humans who are what we call dead, who have left the physical plane, physical world. They are also present in the astral plane but without a physical body. As we can see, the number here is much more than here in the human. Then in the non-human, we have the something called the elemental essence related to the elemental kingdoms. Then the astral body of animals, the nature spirits of all kinds. In fact, nature spirits have been called, as on the physical world, we have the humanity, a large chunk of the inhabitants of the physical world are humans. Similarly, the nature spirits are in a way like the humanity on the astral plane, with the difference that nature spirits are not self conscious in that way and are not reincarnating. They do not have a reincarnating ego or like we have a reincarnating entity. We'll come to that also later as we progress. Then the Devas. There's a whole um, list or group uh, of entities called the Devas or angels. Then we have the artificial group, the class which we call the artificial. They are the maximum number these form actually the maximum number in the astral plane. They are the elementals, the shapes of the astral, or the let's say the astral objects or astral bodies which are formed in the astral plane by our own will, the way that we make it. These are called elementals. I will go on with what are elementals, and they are formed unconsciously and they are formed consciously. There are the two groups, and then there are the human artificials. It's very interesting study, very practical for us. Earlier, in different lectures earlier, we had talked about thought forms. Similarly, these are like that only. So now we go on to the humans, and especially the living with the physical body. The first class is the adept and his pupils. Adept is a Jivan Mukta. Adept is what we call a person who has completed the human journey but is still retaining a physical body. Amongst the adepts, we have uh, those adepts who take pupils, and then we call them as masters in theosophy. And then there are those adepts who do not take pupils and they work, whatever their work is, they do that, and they are also present but with their physical body. So we have the adept and his pupils. Technically speaking, they are also present because they are having astral bodies, so they are also present on this astral plane. Now, because they are so elevated spiritually that they do not really have any kind of work on this plane. This is too low a place to work. It's like a professor has to come to primary school. So what work will a professor have in a primary school? So in this way, this is like this. But due to certain reasons, if they have to work here, the pupils in the initial stages they do work here, but as they graduate further, they really don't have work. But even if they have to work here, they usually do not use their astral bodies as such because they have a much better efficient system of working on the astral plane, and that is the way that they use their mental bodies and they form temporary astral bodies on the astral plane, which they call as Mayavi Rupas. Mayavi Rupas are temporary bodies which are formed instantly on the astral plane by their will at whatever place they want, it can be formed. The they can even materialize this on the physical plane, and this is how they can appear at any time at will on the physical plane, on the astral plane, on the mental plane, and then can disappear immediately. So this is a more efficient system for them to work. But because they are retaining their own astral bodies and they do sometimes work here, they have been included in the list as the number one humans with the physical bodies. The second group is the psychically developed person who is not under the guidance of a master. Now, such a person may be spiritually developed, or may not be spiritually developed. But because of certain reasons of his past, either in this life or in previous lives, he is able to see, or partially or fully, in some degree or the other, the workings of the astral world. So we call these people as psychically developed or having psychic powers. So now such people are in a very difficult position because they can see certain things because they are not taught how to see and what to see. They may not see in the right way, and they may be deceived, and they may or may not be able to bring. So there is a wide range among these peoples, and they may be influenced also. They may feel that they have been spoken to by various high entities. They may start feeling that they are channeling various high beings. Even God or somebody on the astral plane may say that I am so and so, and may give many teachings through them. So they are the people who should know, if they are having certain abilities of this sort, that unless they are trained properly by people who know about these matters, their own impressions can't be really taken seriously. So these are the this is the second group amongst the humans who are still retaining or having physical body. The third is the ordinary person without any psychic development. Just like we are, we are ordinary people having a physical body right now, and during sleep we go into the astral plane. So this person, as it is written here, floats more or less during sleep in unconscious condition, meaning inward oriented. Just like I said, reading a book or a mobile, so person is totally engrossed in his own affairs. Now, all cultured people, as they've written here, they have the astral bodies, the astral senses developed to a good degree, and so much so that their astral bodies can work as independent vehicles. And if they were to be awakened to the astral plane, they could do a lot of good work there, understand the conditions. If they come under the influence of good people, then they can do a lot of good service there. And the fourth class of uh, living humans, I mean, humans with living physical bodies, which can be seen on the astral plane. They are the This fourth group is the exact opposite of the adept and his people, the black magician and his people. The difference between black magician and the adept is that the black magician is a selfish person, a person who wants to gain powers for his own selfish purposes. He is not concerned about others. Also, he doesn't want to die or leave the physical body. Or even if he is able to leave the physical body, he wants to remain on the astral plane and not let the astral body also die. So, this black magician, CW repeaters are only given two groups of people who are known black magicians. There might be others as well. So he has called them as the voodoo schools of Via group and the Tibetan black magicians. That in theosophy we are well versed of the term called Dukpas. Now we come to the second variety that is found on the astral plane. So we have, if we just summarize the first variety, there are the four. The first variety of human beings are those who are living with the physical body. Those humans who are just like us, we are with physical body. We leave our body at night at sleep, and we are able to go into the astral plane. The adept and his pupil, they have the ability to leave the physical body at will, as we call it the trance, and can leave at will at any time and can go into the astral plane and work there. So this adept and his pupil, they this was first type. The second is the psychically developed person. The third is the ordinary person. The fourth is the black magician. Then we come to a big category of humans who have not got living physical bodies, who we call the dead. Once the person dies, he goes into the astral plane, the physical body is gone. So we see that in reincarnation, one cycle of reincarnation takes place in such a way that the physical body, there is a death of the physical body, and then there is a death of another subtler physical body that we call as the etheric double, that is the second death. And then there is a third death of the astral body, and then there is a fourth death of the lower mental body. Once all these four bodies, which have been taken up by the reincarnating principle or the causal body, as we call the causal body or the ego in the causal body in theosophy, the cycle of one cycle of reincarnation is over. So we have the reincarnating entity, which we call ego. Once the cycle of incarnation starts, it takes up the mental body, then the astral body, and the etheric double, and the physical body. These four constitute what we call the personality in theosophy. This is what we are made up of. The physical body for action, the etheric body for gathering prana, and astral body for emotions, and mental body is what we have thinking. That is what we call as a mind in normal psychology. So that way, these are the constituents of human being or personality. One by one, all of these are cut off. So first the physical body death takes place, then the etheric, then the astral, and then the mental. So with this, let us go to now the first group or the first class of people amongst the dead are called the Nirmanakayas. The Nirmanakayas are adepts or Jivan Muktas who have completed their uh, human evolutionary cycle but still retain the ability to function on the physical and the astral planes because they retain what we call the permanent atoms. I will not go deeper into that. They can work on the astral plane if required, but they also work on the astral plane just in the same way, just like the adepts of the living adepts, the people, the adepts who are having a living body, physical body, just in that same way. Although their work is different, the work of the Nirmanakaya is to gather the spiritual forces on earth by the various humans and others who are generating these spiritual forces. They gather these forces, collect them together for the use of the evolved beings, for which can be used for the benefit of the mankind. Now, so Nirmanakayas, they also work, and if required, they do the same thing. They create a Mayavi Rupa, a temporary body, and they work here. Another thing about the Nirmanakayas is that they were given a choice when they had when they had completed their human journey, that they could go into some temporary uh, uh, phase called nirvana, where it is unknown to us, not been revealed to us what exactly that means, nirvana, and for untold ages they could remain in that blissful state. So they have left or they have sacrificed that, and they said, no, we will work for the benefit of people, of all the entities, and they have chosen themselves. So this is one of the ways in which, one of the lines in which a person, a human who has completed the human journey, can further go on. So Nirmanakaya is one of the uh, ways open for a human being, for a Jivan Mukta. There are seven. Let's say, ways in which a person can proceed after human journey is completed. One of them is Nirmanakaya. Another one is to stay back here as part of the occult hierarchy. Another one is to become a part of the general staff of the Solar Logos. Another one is to enter into the angelic kingdom. Another one is to go into other chains and help them. And another one is to become avatars like this. Another one is Dharmakaya. And then there is a Sambhogaya. So we have several ways in which the roads are open for the adepts to take place. So Nirmanakayas, they stay on the earth and they help in spiritual elevation by gathering the spiritual energies, the forces for the distribution in a fruitful manner. The second group is the pupil awaiting incarnation. Now, when the initiated disciple of an adept reaches a particular stage of his growth, then he can also renounce or sacrifice his devachanic life. Had he gone into the devachanic life, meaning after the death of the astral body, he would have proceeded normally into devachan. He would have had a long period of growth, and he would have come back in a very advanced manner fashion. So he renounces that period because that period would be lost to humanity, and he then keeps on taking bodies again and again, and he's able to advance himself spiritually as well as do a lot of good work. So he, in a very small manner, in a very miniature manner, microcosmic manner, imitates or does the same thing what the Nirmanakaya is doing. But for this, his master should agree and see that he is capable of doing it. It would be the right thing for him. And then they have to apply to a higher authority amongst the occult hierarchy that it should be allowed that he can be that this can be done. So if such a pupil is allowed that he can take a reincarnation, then such a pupil's astral body is not allowed to die. He is given another body. Either he takes birth in a normal way or he takes up another person who has just left his physical body and enters his body. So this is how this pupil is also working on the astral plane till he gets a new body. That is why this group or this class has been put here, that the pupil who is awaiting reincarnation is also found here. Third is the ordinary person after death of physical body. As we can see, so many hundreds and thousands of people are dying every day. So where do they go? They go here only, to the astral plane. And the astral plane is where? It is here only. It is not somewhere very far off. It is here right now. Only thing is our consciousness is just can see only the physical matter. It is unable to see the subtler matter. But in the but this astral plane is here, and the person after losing the physical body is enters into the astral body in full consciousness and remains there for some time. So a lot of majority of the humans are there in the astral plane but without physical body. So the question arises, which is a very common question: how long does a person live on the astral plane after death of the physical body? The answer is can't be given in one number because of several reasons. And there are several fates also, several activities also, which will affect the length of stay on the astral plane. So, as C.W. Leadbeater has written, they might be those people who only spend few days or hours there. So, they are so spiritually elevated that they don't have to, they just, after their physical death, in a few hours or a few days, they are able to leave even the astral body. Then there are others who live for many years, and then there are others who live for several centuries, like the black magicians. They don't want to leave. They employ special means to retain or delay their astral death. Now, the average man, as he writes, has not left the desires completely. Therefore, he takes more or less some amount of time for the astral body to get devitalized enough for the death to take place. So the desires have to reduce. Just like in physical body, we have our nourishment and our strength and our life in the physical body. Till that time, it is our uh, health is good. The physical body does not die. In the same way, for the in the astral body, The health of the astral body or the energy level of the astral body is guided by the desires, how active the desires are there in the astral body. And the more actively a person is involved in desiring and wishing and willing, and his desires are very strong, that much amount of energy he will gather or have in the astral body, till slowly the desires they wane away to some extent to a threshold level. Then he leaves the astral plane as well, or there's the death of the astral body. So we come to a very important point. I think this is the last point for today. The time is almost up. This is a very, very important point. And this is something which I would say, if we leave everything else of what we have spoken today, just capture this point. That is good enough. Because this is something which we can tell everybody in some way or the other. I used to tell this to my mother, who had no idea about theosophy. And I used to say, just take it as a working hypothesis, something, some story. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, even if it is not true, then you don't lose anything. But if it is true, it will help you a lot. So the thing goes like this. Our astral body is made up of matter of the astral plane, just like the physical body is made up of 50 to 100 trillion physical atoms, or not atoms but cells. What they atoms are still subtler, so cells. So we have, I mean, crores and crores of cells in our physical body. In the same way, in the astral body also, there are crores and crores of atoms. And the body is made in such a way that these atoms, just like our physical body, is made in such a way, it has its own way of survival. The physical body, it has an autonomic nervous system. It can regulate itself, the heat, the thirst, the hydration, the temperature, everything of the body is regulated. Healing is regulated, digestion, circulation, respiration, everything is regulated on its own. So it functions as an independent unit. In the same way, in the astral body also functions as an independent unit to a certain extent, and this in theosophy we call it as a desire elemental. It is kind of a low grade intelligent unit that is there, and it behaves in a coordinated manner, and it has its own dull desires or its abilities, its own way of expressing itself. What happens after death is that once the physical body is left and the person then wakes up in the astral plane, in his astral body, the astral body for the first time after death, not during life, when during sleep, it never happened there. But here they say that this happens during this period after the death of the physical body. The person waking up in the astral plane in the astral body, the astral body feels a kind of threat. It feels as if some danger is coming, and it feels that it needs to take preventive action to protect itself. How does it protect itself? What preventive action does it take? That has been called by C.W. Leadbeater as rearrangement of the matter of the astral body. It rearranges the matter in such a manner, just like our physical body is also made up of solid, liquid, and gas, and also subtler etheric matter. In the same way, all the seven different grades of astral matter make up the astral body also. So, the rearrangement that the astral body does on its own, or tries to do on its own, is by collecting all the matter of one type and putting it the most grossest at the outermost point. Just like in the physical body, if I were to feel threatened by something, I would try to have that matter on the outside, which is the coarsest matter, which can resist impact, which can work as a shield. So it rearranges itself in concentric layers in which the coarsest, the grossest matter of the astral is outside and the subtler are within. This kind of rearrangement it tries to make to protect itself. This is something which we have to resist. We do not have to allow this to happen. The reason being, on the astral plane, just like on the physical plane, we are able to see through specialized organs. In the astral, there are no specialized organs. The whole of the astral body, the whole of all the matter of the astral body can perceive, but only that matter can be perceived, or that matter perceives which is on the outermost part of the astral body. So if I have an astral body like this, and in the astral body, the outermost, this book is like astral body. The cover, the pages on the outside of the astral body, these are exposed to the surroundings. So through this matter on the outer side, the astral body is able to perceive, see, hear, do whatever it, but only with the matter on the outside. And this matter, if it is rearranged in such a manner that only the grossest matter is present on the outside, then what will happen is that the person will be able to see only the grossest part of the astral plane. That is, the vision will be limited. Just like we wear glasses which have only one color, that allow only one color to enter our eyes, then we will be able to see only one color. In the same way, if the astral body gets rearranged after death, because of the need to, the wish to protect oneself because of some danger that might come, this kind of feeling comes up, then the person is limited to only a small section of the astral plane, and one is not able to see other aspects of the astral plane. It's like a jail. One is just confined to one part of the astral plane, astral world. So this is a rearrangement that we have to resist. This is done by constantly refusing to allow for this rearrangement to take place. Just like if we are supposing we go to a place and when we feel threatened, or there's nothing that is threatening us, but if we feel threatened that something may happen, we have to reassure ourselves nothing is going to happen, nothing can happen, I am okay. In the astral plane also nothing can happen because the astral body can't be cut, the astral body can't have fatigue, it does not require food, it does not require anything to drink. There is nothing, there is no need to be afraid on the astral plane, except for a few things that we'll talk about later, maybe next time. There is nothing to be afraid of. So here we have to resist rearrangement. This is very important. So when we meet people who are in the latter part of the physical lives and are receptive enough, we can tell them that listen, if we can talk this much with them, that listen, once the body is left, we will not die. Only the body is left. We will enter into another region, just like we go to another country. When we go to that country, what do we see? What will we see and what will happen? We can discuss and describe a little bit. But the first thing that we have to do is to tell that you may feel threatened. You may feel as if some danger is going to come. You do not have to be afraid. You don't have to allow this feeling of danger to take over you. So, this is important. And as it is written here in the second paragraph, the theosophical student understands all this, and therefore he knows that the limitation is not necessary. Knowing this, he will at once set himself to resist the action of the desire elemental and will insist upon retaining his astral body in the same condition as during earth life, during which all the particles intermingled and were in free motion. The consequence will be that he will be able to receive the vibrations from the matter of every astral subplane simultaneously, and so the whole astral world will be fully open to his sight. So I will stop here, and we will go on further next week. If there are any questions, one can ask. If there are any comments, because we will be uploading this talk to our YouTube channel, Theosophy Delhi, one can ask there. If there is something which is not clear, because I have not gone really into detail of how the perception takes place, this that part we will take later on when we talk about the astral body. But since most of us know about uh, the basics of this, I will just stop here and ask if there are any questions, queries, comments on what we have discussed today. And thank you very much, Mathuji.
Thank you, Brother Rajiv. You have explained very clearly about the another world, the astral world. Though we experience it every day, but still it is very critical and difficult to understand. In the most, you have explained it in the most and lucid, simple language by means of scientific illustrations. We will look forward for further exploration into astral world in the next talk on the next Saturday. If there is any question, anybody wants to add something, please do.
Yes, I do have a question. First of all, I want to thank the speaker, sir. It was really very interesting and he has explained it quite a bit. I have
Right.
one question. Yes, the one that, as you said about the dreams are in the astral plane. So, my question is that while we dream, and few of the dreams we recollect back, and few of the dreams we just forget. So, I want to know that how to differentiate between that the dream is the result of our own thoughts, or uh, we are having a certain astral impression by someone else. How to differentiate between the two? I hope I'm clear. What am I trying to ask?
Yes, sister, yes. There was a like I said, Annie Besant and C.W. Leadbeater, they collaborated and they also did some experimental work on this topic of dreams. And what they found, they have written in their small pamphlet called Dreams. They found that there are several levels at which certain impressions they come into the physical brain after we wake up, and even during sleep, that we are able to retain or the memory of, and they are all mixed up usually in most of the people, and it is very difficult to differentiate. So depending on what kind of a person, they did experiments on a undeveloped person, what we call savage, cultured class, and advanced people. So the first is that the physical dense brain, the brain of the physical body made up of solid liquid gas, that has impressions or images stored within it. That's number one. The etheric brain, made up of the etheric matter, that etheric brain also has images stored within itself. Then there are experiences of the person during astral life, meaning that when the person goes into the astral plane, he may experience certain events there which he may not be able to see properly or remember properly. Then there is the activity of the mind itself, and then the ego. The ego may also like to impress something upon the person, because now that the physical body is away, it is easy to impress the astral plane. Now, with all these factors, when they enter or intermingle with each other, these jumbled up images, jumbled up things, they come up and they have called them as dreams. Though at certain times they might be a vision, they might be something which is so clear that one can say that yes, I did have an experience of that. But it is very difficult to differentiate. I'll just give you an example of C.W. Leadbeater himself. In this current life, that is the last life of C.W. Leadbeater, as he was a Christian priest in the earlier part of his life, he used to have a recurrent dream of a place in the tropical land, kind of a tropical land, with a very big house and a courtyard and garden and many other things were there. And he could not understand because he had never lived in such a place. But why this would keep on coming again and again? So, but when he developed himself considerably, he was able to see into his previous lives. He found that in the life preceding this one, he was born in Greece, and that was the image of his house where he used to live and where he had started um, the just like we have Theosophical Society and the the same way he had started the school of Pythagoras because he had become the disciple of Pythagoras in that life and he had continued in that house. So that it used to come again and again. It's very difficult to differentiate, and there is no clear cut 100% authentic method of knowing. That is my answer. Maybe somebody else can contribute.
Thank you. Could you suggest any book where it can be like more clear to me
Yes, yes, please see.
regarding it?
Yes, Dreams. The title of the book itself is Dreams by C.W. Leadbeater and Annie Besant. It is easily available. If you have email of Mathurji, maybe he can give it to you.
Yes, we'll do.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
You
Thank
just
you.
send the email address to me or to Rajiv Gupta directly.
Yes, yes.
We'll send the book.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Thank
Should I
you.
write in the chat?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
You write in the chat, okay?
Okay, okay.
We'll
Thank
send
you.
it. You just
Okay.
write on the chat. Any other question? Mansi Bhagat has posed a few questions. Mansi, please make questions.
हाँ हाँ सर, मैं कुछ पूछना चाह रही
हाँ
हूँ।
हाँ हाँ, बोलिए बोलिए वास्तव।
ये फिजिकल डेथ के बाद जो अभी आपके टॉक का जो लास्ट हिस्सा है उसमें आपने बताया था कि एस्ट्रल बॉडी का जो मैटर है वो अपने आप को रीअरेंज करता है, तो हमें अफ्रेड नहीं होना चाहिए। ये वाला जो रेफरेंस है, क्या इसमें हमारी एस्ट्रल बॉडी को किन्हीं एलिमेंटल्स के द्वारा क्या पजेस भी किया जाता है और उससे उससे हमको अफ्रेड नहीं होना है और वो धीरे से फिर डाइल्यूट हो जाते हैं? मतलब थोड़ा सा क्लियरिफिकेशन हमको दे दीजिए।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सवाल के लिए। ये जो हमारा जो रीअरेंजमेंट जो होती है, जो डर होता है, ये तो डर
जी
हमारे को बात हो ही गई है। जहां तक
जी।
ऑब्सेशन का सवाल है, ऑब्सेशन जनरली नहीं होता है।
अच्छा
ऑब्सेशन सिर्फ उन लोगों के अंदर पाया गया है जो बहुत ही ज्यादा कोर्स लोग हैं, सैवेज लोग हैं,
अच्छा अच्छा
एक्सट्रीमली सेल्फिश लोग हैं। वो लोग
अच्छा
फिर ऐसे एंटिटीज से ऐसे एस्ट्रल एंटिटीज से उनकी मुलाकात होती है जो उनको ओवर पावर कर सकते हैं। और जब वो
अच्छा।
करते हैं तो पहले ये फोर्थ रूट रेस के अंदर ज्यादा होता था कि उस टाइम पे इस
हम्म
टाइप के ह्यूमैनिटी मिलती थी, बहुत ही
हम्म
ब्रूटल और सैवेज काइंड। तो तब ये वेयरवुल्फ जो हम आगे पढ़ेंगे, तो वो वेयरवुल्फ की कैटेगरी आती थी जब
हाँ
उनकी
हम्म।
एस्ट्रल बॉडीज को ये इवल एंटिटीज जो एलिमेंटल्स हैं, गंदे
हाँ
टाइप के बहुत क्रॉस पावरफुल एलिमेंटल्स हैं, वो उनको ऑब्सेस कर देते थे उनकी बॉडी को और फिर वो मटेरियलाइज करते थे फिजिकल प्लेन
अच्छा।
में इन्हीं की फिजिकल
हम्म।
बॉडी का मैटर लेके, और फिर
अच्छा।
वो गलत गलत सारे काम करते थे। और वो बहुत भयानक स्थिति थी, उसको इन्होंने बोला वेयरवुल्फ। ये आगे चल के हम पढ़ेंगे। इसके अलावा
हम्म
सी डब्ल्यू
हम्म
लेडबीटर की खुद ही जो एक स्टोरी बुक के कलेक्शन है, द परफ्यूम ऑफ इजिप्ट, उसके अंदर
हम्म
एक कहानी आती है, टेस्ट ऑफ करेज।
हम्म
उस टेस्ट ऑफ करेज के अंदर वो बताते हैं कि जब भी आप एस्ट्रल प्लेन में जाएं और अगर आपकी मुलाकात एलिमेंटल से होती है तो आपको डरना नहीं है। आप अपने जगह पे अडिग खड़े रह सकते हैं और रेजिस्ट कर सकते हैं, वो अपने आप ही पास ऑन हो जाएंगे। खैर पीपल्स को सिखाया भी जाता है कि कैसे थॉट फॉर्म्स को ब्रेक करना है और कैसे
जी।
बचना है, वो उन सबको बताया जाता है। इन जनरल ऑब्सेशन बहुत रेयर फिनोमेना है, उन्हीं के अंदर होता है जो बहुत ज्यादा खुद ही सेल्फिश है।
अच्छा अच्छा। थैंक यू थैंक यू।
थैंक
थैंक यू वासुमती जी, थैंक यू डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता। विनीता जी, आपका ईमेल एड्रेस मैंने नोट कर लिया, मैं बुक भेज दूंगा आपको, पैम्फलेट जो है ड्रीम के
जी
ऊपर।
ठीक। ठीक है, थैंक
मानसी जी,
मैं
आप जरा।
मानसी का सवाल ले लेता हूँ, शायद वो नहीं होगी
हाँ,
यहाँ पे। व्हाट इज
अच्छा
दी
है नहीं क्या? What is the harm? हाँ बताइए.
What is the harm if a person is
Person
able to see
only a
only
part
part of subplane of
of
astral
astral
plane
plane
because of
because of
courses
courses matter
matter?
being
नहीं.
outside.
After how much time is the rearrangement broken by normally dead person by itself? एक ही
That is another question.
अच्छा, एक और भी क्वेश्चन है कोई?
हाँ
हाँ,
ये
यही
सेकंड
है.
क्वेश्चन है, ये सेकंड
हम्म.
क्वेश्चन है.
तो इसमें हम आंसर ऐसे करेंगे कि हार्म ऐसा होता है जैसे कि मैंने बताया कि हम लोग के जो एस्ट्रल बॉडी है वो सारे डिफरेंट डिफरेंट सब प्लेन्स के पार्टिकल से बनी हुई है, और क्योंकि वो बनी हुई है तो इसलिए वो आपस में सर्कुलेट करते हैं बड़े आराम से. जब वो सर्कुलेट करते हैं आउटर लेयर पे, तो सारा कुछ जो एस्ट्रल प्लेन के अंदर जो दिखाई दे सकता है, सारे टाइप का एस्ट्रल प्लेन पूरा दिखाई देता है. हम तो फिजिकल लेवल पे जब देखते हैं अपनी आंखों से तो सब दिखाई देता है, मगर एस्ट्रल प्लेन पे आंखें नहीं होती, कान नहीं होते. वो जो आउटर पार्ट होता है एस्ट्रल बॉडी का, वही कान और वही कान भी होता है, वही आंख भी होती है, वही सब कुछ होता है. अगर वहां पे मैटर एक ही टाइप का हो, जैसे कोर्सस मैटर ही है, तो फिर वो कोर्सस मैटर को ही रिस्पॉन्ड करेगा, उसी को ही देख पाएगा, उसी को सुन पाएगा. जैसे अभी हमने बात करी ना कि जो लोग के अंदर कोर्स मैटर बहुत ज्यादा है, सेवेंथ सब प्लेन का मैटर है एस्ट्रल के अंदर, जो बहुत अपने नॉर्मल लाइफ में बहुत ब्रूटल हैं, बहुत सैवेज हैं, तो उनमें ये सेवेंथ का बहुत ज्यादा होगा, तो वो उसी टाइप की एंटिटीज से उनकी मुलाकात होगी जो एस्ट्रल प्लेन पे बहुत कोर्स हैं, गंदी हैं, बहुत ईवल हैं. तो हम लोग के अंदर अगर रीअरेंजमेंट नहीं होगी और सारा मैटर सर्कुलेट कर रहा होगा, एस्ट्रल फर्स्ट का भी, सेकंड का भी, थर्ड का भी, फोर्थ का भी, फिफ्थ का भी, सिक्स, तो हम लोग सारे टाइप के एस्ट्रल प्लेन के मैटर को रिस्पॉन्ड कर पाएंगे, देख पाएंगे. हम लोग कन्फाइंड नहीं होंगे एक जगह पे. तो ये तो हो गया पहला क्वेश्चन का आंसर. दूसरा है कि अगर हम लोग कोशिश करें तो ये थोड़ी ही देर में टूट जाता है. अगर हमने करा है रीअरेंजमेंट, अगर मान लीजिए किसी तरीके से रीअरेंजमेंट हो भी गया तो भी तोड़ा जा सकता है. इसके अंदर भी जो इनविजिबल हेल्पर्स हैं वो हेल्प करते हैं तोड़ने के अंदर. तो कोई, अब तो इनविजिबल हेल्पर्स की क्वांटिटी बहुत बढ़ गई है, जैसे जैसे लास्ट सेंचुरी से लोगों के अंदर स्पिरिचुअल अवेयरनेस दुनिया में बढ़ी है, लास्ट 100-150 ईयर्स के अंदर. तो ये सब चीज़ों की वजह से बहुत सारी चीज़ें आ गई हैं, और हमें इनविजिबल हेल्पर से पढ़ते हैं किताब तो हमें मालूम पड़ता है कि प्रॉपर लोग की हेल्प मिलती है. तो ये आंसर है इनका. मैं एक एग्जांपल दे देता हूँ अभी, जो फिजिकल इनविजिबल हेल्पर्स का, ताकि हमें एक आइडिया लग जाए. ऐसा हुआ इंग्लैंड के अंदर, एक गरीब व्यक्ति की डेथ हुई. उसके 2 साल पहले उसकी वाइफ की डेथ हो गई थी और 2 उसके बच्चे थे. वो एक पेइंग गेस्ट टाइप के जगह पे रह रहा था एक बहुत अच्छी लेडी के साथ में. और जब उसकी डेथ हुई तो वो जब एस्ट्रल प्लेन में आया तो वहाँ पे उसको बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हुई, क्योंकि उसकी सबसे बड़ी जो एंजाइटी थी, जो उसका डर था कि उसके बच्चों को क्या होगा. उसके पास कोई फैमिली रिलेशन उसको याद में नहीं था, कोई उसका बच्चों का ध्यान रखे. तो और वो जो लेडी थी, लैंड लेडी, वो भी ज़्यादा देर तक रह नहीं सकती थी. तो फिर वो बच्चों को कहाँ जाते वो. तो वो इनविजिबल हेल्पर्स जो थे, जो उस एरिया के अंदर घूमते हैं, उस एरिया के जो लोग थे, उन्होंने इसको देखा और बोला भी अब क्या करें. तो उसको याद दिलाया कि तुम सोचो कोई और है जो ध्यान रख सकता है बच्चों को. तो उसने बोला मेरा एक भाई था बहुत पहले, वो बढ़ई बनने, कारपेंटर बनने के लिए गया था बहुत दूर, मगर मुझे पता नहीं वो कहाँ है. तो उन्होंने ढूंढा उसके भाई को. उसके भाई के को ढूंढ के मालूम पड़ा कि उसके भाई के पास में कोई भी बच्चे नहीं थे, और वो खुद बच्चा चाह रहे थे, दोनों जो भाई और उसकी वाइफ थी. और अब वो एक खुद उस्ताद कारपेंटर बन चुका था, उसका भाई जो था मरे हुए व्यक्ति का. तो उन्होंने अपनी तरफ से कोशिश करी, इनविजिबल हेल्पर्स ने, उसको इम्प्रेस करने की कि भाई तुम्हारे भाई के जो बच्चे हैं वो अकेले हैं और तुम जाओ अपने भाई से मिलो. मगर वो सक्सेसफुल नहीं रहा. तो उन्होंने किसी तरीके से चिट्ठी पहुंचाई इधर इसके भाई के पास में. मैं कहानी को कट शॉर्ट कर रहा हूँ. और उसका भाई फिर अपने जो कारपेंटर था वो अपने मृत भाई के घर में गया देखने के लिए, और उसको वहाँ बच्चे मिले और वो लैंडलेडी मिली. और इस तरीके से वो बच्चे जो हैं अपने भाई के घर में आ गए, और उस व्यक्ति की एंजाइटी जो है वो ठीक हो गई, मृत व्यक्ति की. इस तरीके से बहुत सारे काम जो हैं एस्ट्रल प्लेन पे करे जाते हैं, ट्रेनिंग दी जाती है. बहुत सारी चीज़ें और हम आगे पढ़ेंगे कि व्यक्ति कैसे डीपर एस्पेक्ट्स, डीपर ट्रूथ्स को वो देख सकता है, वर्किंग्स ऑफ बहुत सारे जो फिजिकल फोर्सेस हैं उनको देख सकता है, बहुत सारा उसको जो म्यूजिक है वो पढ़ सकता है, सीख सकता है। जो साइंटिस्ट हैं उनके लिए बहुत बड़ी चीजें खुल जाती हैं, लाइब्रेरी सारी खुल जाती है, बहुत कुछ है जो व्यक्ति कुछ करना चाहे वहां पे। माथुर जी।
थैंक यू राजीव। अब हम लोग क्लोज करते हैं। अगर किसी को कुछ और कहना है तो प्लीज कहें, या कोई क्वेश्चन या कुछ।
सर मेरा एक और क्वेश्चन है, इफ
हाँ
यू
बोलिए,
परमिट मी।
बोलिए।
यस यस यस।
ऐसा ऐसा था, जैसे अभी आपने बात किया डेड पर्सन्स का एंड उनके उसके बारे में एक स्टोरी बताई। तो मेरा ये क्वेश्चन था कि जो डेड पर्सन्स होते हैं उनकी जो भी फैमिली रह जाती है पीछे, तो उनके साथ क्या आगे हो रहा है, वो अवेयरनेस रहती है उनमें आफ्टर डेथ कि उनके बाद उनके फैमिली मेंबर्स किस तरह से रह रहे हैं या क्या प्रोसीड कर रहे हैं, या ऐसा कुछ उनके पास अवेयरनेस रहती है और वो अपने ही दुनिया में रहते हैं? ये मैं जानना चाहती हूँ।
हाँ, ऐसा होता है इसमें कि हम जो व्यक्ति एस्ट्रल प्लेन में होता है वो फिजिकल मैटर को तो डायरेक्टली नहीं देख सकता, मगर फिजिकल मैटर के काउंटर पार्ट जरूर देख सकता है। अब क्योंकि फिजिकल और दूसरे व्यक्तियों की एस्ट्रल बॉडी देख सकता है, तो अपने जो परिचित हैं उसके, वो अपने परिचित, अपनी फैमिली, अपने फ्रेंड जो भी हैं उनकी एस्ट्रल बॉडीज को वो देख सकता है, और एस्ट्रल बॉडीज में जो इमोशंस चल रहे हैं उनको भी पढ़ सकता है। अगर उसको आइडिया हो कि कैसे क्या क्या चल रहा है, उसको एक अच्छा तरीका मिल जाता है देखने का। और काफी, जैसे हम फिजिकल प्लेन पे तो दूसरे के इमोशन इतना नहीं पकड़ पाते, मगर वहाँ इजिली पकड़ पाते हैं इस तरीके से कि उसके फैमिली मेंबर्स में क्या इमोशंस चल रहे हैं वो तो उसको दिखाई दे जाते हैं, पता चल जाता है। अब होता इसमें थोड़ा सा कॉम्प्लिकेटेड मामला है कि फिजिकल जो व्यक्ति जब एस्ट्रल प्लेन में जाता है तो काफी वो उसको डिस्टरबेंस आती है, उसका नॉर्मल एनवायरनमेंट भी जो है वो हिल जाता है। उसको अगर अपने एंजाइटी है या अपने फैमिली मेंबर्स के बारे में पता करने की, तो वो जरूर पता कर सकता है और करता है। ऐसे इनविजिबल हेल्पर्स की किताब में आता है कि जो मदर की डेथ हुई, अपने बच्चों को उन्होंने कैसे हेल्प करी, और पूरे टाइम वो हेल्प करती हैं। जे कृष्णमूर्ति की बायोग्राफी में भी आता है कि कृष्णमूर्ति की मदर और सिस्टर की डेथ हुई थी, और कृष्णमूर्ति जब वो जाते थे अपने स्कूल जाते थे, तो पीछे जो है उनके मदर की जो बैंगल्स और उनकी आवाज जो है वो आती थी सिस्टर की, और क्योंकि वो पार्शली क्लेयरवॉयंट थे, वो देख भी सकते थे, तो वो साथ साथ चलते थे। कुछ एस्ट्रल प्लेन पे जो एंटिटीज होती हैं, जैसे जो डेड लोग होते हैं, वो कोशिश करते हैं अपनी तरह से बताने की, तो वो बता नहीं पाते। कोशिश करते हैं इम्प्रेस करने की, वो कर नहीं पाते, तो बहुत क्लमजी मेथड से कई कई चीजें होती हैं, जिसके अंदर कोई सामान गिर जाना या कुछ और इवेंट्स होना, जिसके बारे में हमें टाइम मिलेगा तो हम आगे बात करेंगे, मगर वो बहुत रेयर होता है। इन शॉर्ट, इन ब्रीफ, जो व्यक्ति एंग्शियस है अपनी फैमिली के बारे में, वो अपने अपने फैमिली की मेंबर्स की एस्ट्रल बॉडीज को देख सकता है। वो जब मेंबर्स जब सोते हैं तो एस्ट्रल प्लेन में आते हैं, उनके साथ में वो पूरी बात कर सकता है जो भी है, मगर वो वापस जाएंगे तो उनको याद नहीं रहेगा मेजोरिटी ऑफ द टाइम। तो ये सब इंटरेक्शन उस तरीके से उसका हो जाता है।
ओके, ओके, थैंक यू।
थैंक यू डॉक्टर राजीव। बहुगुणा जी, आप कुछ कह रहे हो? एनीवे,
नहीं, बहुगुणा जी
राजीव
आप।
जी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
हाँ, बहुत
नमस्कार।
बहुत धन्यवाद,
बहुत
थैंक
बहुत
यू।
धन्यवाद। जैसे आपने कहा ना कि किसी ने
आवाज आ
आपसे
रही है?
कहा कि कब आप पतंजलि ले रहे हैं, तो आपने कहा कि पहले जो हमने पढ़ा है उसी को समझे। तो जो आपने किया वो श्रवण मनन और निधिध्यासन। तो आज तो श्रवण किया है, मनन करने के बाद वो एसिमुलेट होगा। लेकिन यदि 1 मिनट का समय हो तो मैं अपना खुद का एग्जाम्पल आपको बता सकती हूँ।
हाँ हाँ,
जैसे कि
बताइए।
किसी ने प्रश्न पूछा कि क्या मरने के बाद वो व्यक्ति क्या अपने बच्चों की देखभाल करता है। तो इनविजिबल हेल्पर की भी किताब मैंने पढ़ी। मेरी मदर की डेथ में जब 3 साल की थी तब हो गई थी, और 20 साल बाद मेरी मदर ने मेरी मदर इन लॉ को सपना दिया कि ये सुषमा के फादर तो बहुत भक्ति मार्गी हैं और वो मेरी बेटी जो है बहुत अच्छी है, अपने बेटे से उसकी शादी कर ले। मतलब ये, और मेरी मदर इन लॉ ने कभी नहीं देखा था मतलब मेरी मदर को। तो ये जो है अभी जो विन्नी जी ने जो प्रश्न पूछा उसके संदर्भ में मैं ये बात कह रही हूँ, और मैं अपना खुद का उदाहरण बता रही हूँ। और दूसरी बात कि जो वसुमती जी ने प्रश्न पूछा था कि जो फिजिकल बॉडी की डेथ होने के बाद जो एस्ट्रल बॉडी के जो मैटर्स होते हैं उसको रीअरेंज जो है वो करती है बॉडी, तो उसको थ्रेट किस बात का रहता है? राजीव जी से ये प्रश्न है कि उसको थ्रेट किस बात का रहता है कि उसको रीअरेंजमेंट करना पड़ता है अपने वो सारे मैटर्स को एस्ट्रल बॉडी के, क्या उसको वो क्रेविंग रहती है अपने वो इमोशन फुलफिल करने की, ये थ्रेट रहता है या किस तरह का थ्रेट रहता है? तो ये प्रश्न मैं पूछना चाहती हूँ राजीव।
जी जी, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सुषमा जी, आपने बहुत अच्छी एक बात बताई अपने पर्सनल लाइफ से। थ्रेट के बारे में, क्यों थ्रेट रहता है, ये तो इन्होंने इतना ही बताया है हमारे को कि डिजायर एलिमेंटल जो एस्ट्रल बॉडी है उसकी अपनी इनर ये अपनी तरफ से अंदर से आता है उसके। जैसे कि किसी को अचानक उठा के फेंक दिया जाए किसी अननोन जगह पे, जैसे हमें भी आज हम सो रहे हो और अचानक हम पाए अपने आप को किसी ऐसी जंगल में, ऐसी जगह पे जहाँ हम किसी को जानते नहीं हैं, पहचानते नहीं है, हम कहाँ पहुंच गए, तो एक अंदर सा डर सा होता है, एक प्रिकॉशन कॉशनरी मेजर होता है ये। इस तरीके से होता है कि एक आदमी सावधान जैसे हो जाता है और अपने आप को तैयार रखता है कि कोई डेंजर आएगा तो मैं उसको फेस करूं। उस वो वाली फीलिंग जो होती है वो आती है डिजायर एलिमेंटल में, एस्ट्रल बॉडी में, और उसकी वजह से रीअरेंजमेंट करने की उसकी कोशिश होती है।
थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू राजीव।
थैंक यू
थैंक यू,
थैंक
थैंक
यू।
यू सुषमा जी। बहुना जी आप बोलिए, आप कुछ कह रहे हैं।
मेरी आवाज आ रही है सर?
हाँ जी, हाँ जी,
हाँ
बिल्कुल।
आ रही है, बताइए।
राजीव जी, मैं ये पूछ रहा था, एक तो आप ये कौन सी किताब से बोल रहे हैं? कोई किताब का रेफरेंस है इसमें?
हाँ हाँ, ये एस्ट्रल प्लेन किताब है CW लेडबीटर की, ये थियोसॉफिकल
अच्छा,
मैनुअल नंबर 5 है। आपको अगर चाहिए मैं आपको ईमेल कर दूंगा इसको।
एस्ट्रल प्लेन, मेरे पास एक और किताब पढ़ी है, उसमें इससे रिलेटेड काफी मैटर है, लेडबीटर जी की ही।
जी
और
जी।
दूसरे साहब, मैं कि मतलब ये जो है, ये मरने के बाद भी आदमी जो है अपने रिश्तेदारों, चिर परिचितों और ये दुनियादारी के इस चक्कर में उसकी तब भी पूरी, मतलब उसी में लगा रहता है वो।
ऐसा जरूरी नहीं है कि लगा रहेगा। अगर कोई जिम्मेवारी है ही नहीं, कोई
हाँ,
एंजाइटी है नहीं, कोई खास उसका
हाँ,
लगाव है नहीं, तो वो नहीं लगा
हाँ,
रहेगा। अभी मैंने ज्यादा डिटेल में बात नहीं करी कि 7th सब प्लेन और 6th सब प्लेन का जो होता है, अब मैं इतनी बात करूंगा कि भाई वो नहीं लगा रहेगा ज्यादा। और धीरे धीरे
हाँ,
जैसे एस्ट्रल बॉडी की उसकी मेच्योरिटी आएगी, डेथ की, जैसे हम लोगों की फिजिकल बॉडी की मेच्योरिटी होती है और ओल्ड एज होती है और हम मरते हैं, ऐसे एस्ट्रल बॉडी
हाँ,
के अंदर भी चेंजेस आते हैं ग्रेजुअली। और वो भी अपनी बॉडी छोड़ने के प्रोसेस के अंदर जो पहले कोर्सस मैटर होता है वो छटता चले जाता है, सिर्फ फाइनल मैटर रह
हाँ,
जाता है बाद में, और वो भी फिर खत्म हो जाता है। तो उसके इसलिए ऐसा व्यक्ति भी थोड़े टाइम में, अगर उसके बहुत स्ट्रांग पैशंस नहीं है, बहुत स्ट्रांग डिजायर्स नहीं है, तो वो उसकी भी जल्दी ही एस्ट्रल प्लेन पे मृत्यु हो जाती है। उसको खास कोई
हाँ,
अपने परिचितों के साथ रहने की जरूरत नहीं, ना ध्यान देने की जरूरत है। और बतेरे दोस्ती बन जाती है, जो पुराने जा चुके हैं वो मिल जाते हैं,
हाँ,
तो
हाँ,
मुलाकात तो होती रहती है, ऐसा बताया गया।
हाँ, हाँ जी, हाँ जी। अरे सर, बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, क्योंकि मेरे मेरे भी मदर फादर दोनों की डेथ हो चुकी है, और मेरे को कुछ टाइम तक उनका ध्यान आता था, मगर वो थोड़े टाइम के बाद चला गया। तो मैंने फिर सोचा कि भाई अब ये अपनों ने कहीं चले गए होंगे, अब वो नहीं आते। केवल थोड़ा बहुत किसी का ध्यान आता है तो बहुत ही ऐसा ग्रैंड, जैसे कि कोई बहुत बड़े कोई सिद्ध संत महात्मा बन गए हो, इस टाइप का ध्यान आता है उसके बाद। इसका मतलब वो उनका उतना पीरियड था वो एस्ट्रल बॉडी में, तो उनका मोह लगा हुआ था मेरी तरफ। उसके बाद वो अब चले गए, अब नहीं आते।
हाँ बिल्कुल, हो सकता है, आप सही कह रहे हैं, बिल्कुल।
हो सकता है, हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
ये इंडिविजुअल क्वेश्चन है, मगर
Thank you.
नॉर्मली तो छूट जाता है सब, ऐसा कहा जाता है। डॉक्टर राजीव गुप्ता
हाँ,
जी कह रहे हैं। और बीच में लेडबीटर जी का इन्होंने कोट करा था कि कुछ लोग तो बहुत फास्ट एस्ट्रल प्लेन से निकल जाते हैं और कुछ लोगों को थोड़ा सा टाइम
एस्ट्रल
लगता है।
प्लेन निकल जाते हैं, हाँ।
हाँ, थोड़ा कुछ लोगों
चलिए,
को डिपेंड
ये
करता
जान
है।
के बड़ी बड़ी खुशी हुई कि अभी मरने के बाद भी आप लोगों के और लेक्चर सुनने को मिलेंगे, मतलब पास ढूंढते रहेंगे, आप एस्ट्रल प्लेन से सुनते रहेंगे सब। आप लोग साथ एस्ट्रल प्लेन में भी रहेगा, वहां भी सुनेंगे आपके लेक्चर।
बिल्कुल, ये बात आपने सही कही है। ऐसा कहा गया है, बिल्कुल ऐसा कहा गया है कि वहां पे भी टीचिंग चलती रहती है। ये भी आप सही कह रहे हैं।
उसके हायर पार्ट
हाँ,
पे ये सब चलता रहता है, जैसे राजीव ने अभी बताया ना, जो उसके हायर पार्ट हैं, मतलब
हाँ,
लोअर उसको छोड़ दें हम, ऊपर के 6th और 7th जो हैं वो काफी सटल होते हैं, ठीक है ना राजीव?
हाँ हाँ,
तो वहां पे जो है काफी
बिल्कुल।
मतलब सीखा भी जा सकता है। मगर नॉर्मली हम लोग के लिए एस्ट्रल प्लेन ऐसा कहा जाता है, जो स्पिरिचुअली इंक्लाइंड है उनके लिए इसका कोई खास महत्व
हाँ,
नहीं है, वो जल्दी ही इसको छोड़ देते हैं, मेंटल प्लेन पे वो जाते हैं।
हाँ, 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 अच्छा।
किसी
जी,
और ने कोई बात कहनी है? हाँ हेमंत जी
हाँ जी,
बताइए।
हाँ जी। I think if we can summarize in such a way, the quality or the length or the strength of life in astral life, it is proportional to the, what quality of life, we are living in the physical world. So if we develop higher emotions, not lower nature, that the same will be reflected in the astral life, and that what I feel.
Yes, yes. Correctly said, rightly
यस,
said, brother. Rightly said.
And one more thing, whether there are certain laws, that is applicable in every plane. In a physical also, there are certain laws, even though we are not much aware of this, and that laws is also applicable in the astral laws. What I feel that, the any kind of interaction, it is not possible in the astral and the physical, until unless one is fully aware of this and of very high quality, then it may be possible. Otherwise it is not, interaction is not that much possible, or anybody can affect us, and we should not even think about it. That's what I feel. If more and more we think about it, then definitely we will be affected in sleep. Otherwise nobody, no power can disturb us. That's what I feel, because there are the higher powers, and these the powers are always compassionate and helping. So that's what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
थैंक यू हेमंत जी, वेरी राइट राजीव गुप्ता जी। और किसी का कुछ प्रश्न या किसी का कुछ एडिशन करना है तो करें, नहीं तो अब हम लोग क्लोज करेंगे।
ये जो एस्ट्रल प्लेन है, एक क्वेश्चन और था।
हाँ
दिस इज
बोलिए।
इक्विवेलेंट टू व्हाट? दिस इज इक्विवेलेंट टू प्राणमय कोश और मनोमय कोश?
प्राणमय
ये
कोश तो आप बोलिए माधव जी, बताइए।
मैं कह रहा हूँ कि ये वेदांत की भाषा में वो बात कर रहे हैं, वो थोड़ा सा वहां पे डिफरेंस है। मैं सिर्फ ये कह रहा हूँ इनसे, क्योंकि आप वहां से पैरिटी उसकी ना करें तो फिलहाल जो है,
नहीं, इनको
क्योंकि
बता देते हैं। वो
अच्छा,
प्राणमय कोश जो है ना, वो कोश है, बॉडी है, वो ईथरिक बॉडी हम उसको मानते हैं थियोसॉफिकल सोसाइटी में। और जो मनोमय कोश है, वो दोनों का मिक्सचर है, एस्ट्रल
तो
बॉडी एंड लोअर मेंटल बॉडी, जिसको काम मनस
अच्छा,
प्रिंसिपल भी
उसमें
कहते
एस्ट्रल में लोअर?
हैं। एस्ट्रल बॉडी एंड लोअर मेंटल बॉडी दोनों मिला के मनोमय कोश।
एक्चुअली आवाज बहुत कट रही है, जो है ना, मेरा कनेक्शन बहुत पुअर है, और मैं इसी वजह से कई बार ये लेक्चर नहीं सुन पाया बीच बीच में।
कोई बात नहीं,
नहीं
आप
अभी
रिकॉर्डिंग
आपको
बार
सुन
बार
लिया,
रीलॉक
अभी आपने
होता
सुन लिया? नहीं, राजीव का जो कह रहा है अभी सुन
है।
लिया? नहीं,
एक बार नहीं सुना।
अच्छा राजीव फिर से रिपीट कर
एक
दो।
बार
ये
बोल दीजिए।
एक्चुअली एस्ट्रोमेंटल की बात कर रहे हैं, वो जो एस्ट्रोमेंटल हमारा है उसको एस्ट्रोमेंटल बोलते हैं, दोनों को मिला के। ये राजीव जी कह रहे हैं कि जो हमारा मनोमय कोश की बात की जा रही है उसमें दोनों के दोनों मिक्स हैं। और ऐसे ही एस्ट्रल जो है ये हमारा एथरिक डबल की बात, एथरिक प्लेन की बात की जा रही है। राजीव जरा हिंदी में इनको फिर से एक बार आप अच्छे से बता दो। बहुगुणा जी को आवाज अभी आ रही है? नहीं,
हाँ, अभी आ रही है।
बता दो इनको।
तो बहुगुणा जी, क्लियर हो गया आपका? मनोमय कोश जो है वो हम थियोसॉफी के हिसाब से एस्ट्रल बॉडी और प्लस मेंटल बॉडी और प्राणमय कोश इज इक्वल टू इथरिक बॉडी।
अच्छा, अब फिर एस्ट्रल के आगे फिर सीधे मनोमय,
नहीं,
एस्ट्रल के आगे।
आप देखो ना, आप ऐसा है ना, ये जो जो वेदांतिक क्लासिफिकेशन है कोशास की, अन्नमय कोश हो गया डेंस
हाँ,
फिजिकल बॉडी थियोसफी के हिसाब से, प्राणमय कोश
हाँ,
एथरिक बॉडी हो गया थियोसफी के हिसाब से। ये दोनों बॉडीज जो है
हाँ,
फिजिकल बॉडीज हैं, फिजिकल प्लेन की बॉडीज हैं।
हाँ,
मनोमय कोश जो है
हाँ,
वेदांत का, वो हमारे थियोसफी के अंदर एस्ट्रल बॉडी और कंबाइंड विद मेंटल बॉडी, दोनों बॉडीज को कंबाइन करके एक बॉडी बना के उन्होंने बोला मनोमय कोश। फिर विज्ञानमय कोश उन्होंने बोला, विज्ञानमय कोश हमारी कॉजल बॉडी है, वो विज्ञानमय कोश है। फिर आनंदमय कोश उन्होंने बोला जो हमारे यहाँ पे बुद्धिक बॉडी बोली जाती है। इस तरीके से
हाँ। एक्चुअली मैं माफ कीजिएगा, एक्चुअली एक बार कनेक्शन और कट गया था। तो आपने कहा कि मनोमय कोश में लोअर एंड हायर हो गया, लोअर में लोअर मनोमय कोश एंड और क्या मिला के एस्ट्रल एस्ट्रल बॉडी हो गई।
आप भोगना जी जो है ना, लेक्चर को दोबारा देख लीजिएगा थियोसफिकल दिल्ली के
हाँ,
उसमें,
यस,
ज्यादा बेटर रहेगा,
हाँ,
इजी हो
हम
जाएगा। जी
दोबारा,
जी
यस, थैंक यू वेरी मच, थैंक यू।
ठीक बात है भगुना जी। राजीव गुप्ता जी का सजेशन अच्छा है कि आप इसको एक बार देख लीजिएगा तो अच्छे से। तो अभी हम लोग
हाँ,
क्लोज करें कि किसी और का कुछ क्वेश्चन या कुछ है, किसी ने ऐड करना है? नहीं तो हम लोग क्लोज करते हैं। ओके, अब हम लोग क्लोज करते हैं। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामया, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, न कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ओम शांति शांति शांति। थैंक यू एवरीबॉडी।